All right,
Do you want
cool.
to throw a host up on your channel? Get all your peeps in here?
Oh yeah, good idea. What do you? Yeah, all my peeps. Let's see. Uh, Let me see. Is it just Chase
Twitch.tv
Bianchi?
slash Chase
Chase,
Bianchi.
it's Chase Bianchi.
Sir.
I'm saying it right. I'm
Yeah, you
saying it
got it,
right.
buddy. Nice Italian name.
Okay. Yeah, it's Italian. You know what part of the boot you're from?
Lake Como? I want to say it's up fairly far north.
Ah, that's like the nice part.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
really that's. You ever been back?
Yeah, we went back for a family reunion when I was in high school,
Oh, that's
16.
cool. That's cool, man. That's a good time.
I was trying
Yeah, I
to
don't know.
think, you're in Costa Rica, and I'm thinking, what time is it in Costa Rica right now? Like, silly American, I have no idea where Costa Rica is.
It's about two hours back, so it's not that bad. It's kind of hard for anybody to know what time it is because Central America doesn't observe daylight savings, so it changes throughout the year. So
Oh,
you'll
you're
be
like the Arizona of the world.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, Costa Rica's in Central America. It's right between Nicaragua and Panama. So if you know where those are, if you know where Colombia is, it's a little more. It's right in that little section where we force the Panama Canal on
Oh,
people.
okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah. No. And let me see. I'm trying to host you. Hold on a second. Chase Bianchi.
It's good. We'll
And
give the folks some time to get in chat.
yeah,
Questions
no,
rolling.
no, for sure, man. Oh, I
So
gotta. So there's
usually
no.
I start my Twitch streams in prayer. Would you mind if I started some prayer?
Yeah, yeah, go
Right
for it,
on. I
man.
figure, fellow lover of Christ, you would mind it.
Far
Uh,
out. That's
Lord God,
awesome.
thank you so much that we get this time, that we get to spend with each other. I pray, God, that you would make it beneficial. The Lord, we'd conduct ourselves in a way, thought, word, and deed, to glorify you. Pray, God, that you just make this time beneficial. Thank you for Alex and all that he does for free and for coaching. And God, just be with us today by the power of the Holy Spirit. And in Jesus' name, said amen.
Hey, man. Wow, man. That's cool. You do that. That
Yeah,
takes that
bro.
takes hut that takes chutzpah in today's world. No, no,
Takes a
it's
little grit, as I was reading in your
yeah.
book.
It does take grit, man. It takes I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I'm still on my first cup of coffee, so I
Yeah,
might
I'm on
be.
number 2 right now.
Yeah, I'm still waking up, but yeah, I mean, it seems like I get hated on for the Christian thing more than like anything. I feel like I get
Yeah,
asked way more about being a Christian and being not I'm not a Republican, but I'm sure as hell not Democratic either, but I get asked more about that than I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise gets asked about Scientology. You know what I mean? Like I really feel like it's just so absurd to people that they feel like you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, that's pretty weird with all this stuff going on in this earth. Like, this is what you're focusing on. Like the guy who, just wants to say a little prayer before he eats his food. That's
right. My
that's kind
my
of
old pastor
different
used
to
to
me.
say that, all the rebellious ways are gone. The biggest way to be a rebel is to, like, read your Bible and go to church anymore. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, to hold it down. I mean,
Yeah.
are you a fan of Christian metal?
No, I know some. I like Christian rap, like Andy
Yeah,
Mineo.
that's
I
what's
never know
up,
how
man.
to say his name.
And Mineo, I think. But yeah, you like Lecrae and all
I
them?
do like Lecrae.
Yeah, he's a little more commercial, but yeah, there's this band called Demon Hunter that's a Christian metal band, and they had an album called Extremist, and it was just about how ostracized and weird the guy felt about being, going to church and taking care of his kids and just not, and being sober all the time, like how weird that felt compared to the mainstream. And then he was asking himself, like, what really is a rebel? When you really think about it, it's like all my friends are getting high and screwing off the day and showing up
Sure.
to work for 8 hours and really only putting in 4.5. What's really being rebellious now? You know what I mean? Like, it really is about putting in work, like your pastor said. But yeah, I totally took this totally off topic. I should let you lead. My bad. My bad.
Standard Alex. Oh, we're already on
Yes,
tangent.
sir. Yeah,
So Q&A, your new book. I'm pretty pumped about it, dude. Like, you've been kind of one of my poker idols, so
Thank
being
you,
able to
sir.
do a little Q&A and read your book has been really cool.
I
So
appreciate
one of
that.
the things that I like that you talk about in your book is not just the strategical, but also, like, kind of what we're kind of touching on is the lifestyle. Like,
Yes, sir.
Grit is a word that you use. So my question is, what are some things that you have overcome? Please chat, think of more questions. What are some things you've overcome and had to get that grit and determination to make?
Oh man, that's a long discussion. I mean, if I really wanted to, like, there's two different answers. Like, if I want to talk about how bad my life was, I could certainly do that for like 20 minutes. But yeah, there's a lot of drug addiction in the family. I left home during high school. I lived in Casino Road, Everett. That comes up in the book. That Casino Road, Everett's probably like if you Google it, it'll say like, Casino Road, Everett has
Yeah, yeah.
a.
Shout out to Everett. I used to live in
Oh, no
Seattle
doubt.
area.
Oh no, no kidding, man. Yeah, I
Yeah, I was
love
in
that.
Linwood. Everett was just
Oh
up
yeah,
the skid row.
You were in Lynn Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Were you there before it
Hood.
got were you there before it got real bad, or did you?
I was there like 6 years ago. It wasn't too bad. Like, I'm
Yeah,
kind
it's
of a
not. I
home
mean,
dweller.
it's not bad. It's just I went. I don't know this heroin thing, man. It's really like when I was a kid, I was like the loser in high school because I smoked bud once in a while. Now these kids are shooting up heroin in the schools and stuff. Like, and I'm like, what the hell you all doing, man? That's like real bad for you. But yeah, no, I mean, like, there was all like I had to move out of home at one point. Like, I've seen people die. I've seen suicide attempts and stuff like that. And, stuff I don't really like talking about a lot. Oh, Mom, I'm in an interview. Sorry.
Mom, meatloaf.
Yeah, mom, yeah, yeah. My mom's watching football with the headphones on, so
Oh,
she,
nice.
yeah, you know what I mean. She's hoping once again the Patriots lose, but I don't think that's gonna happen versus the versus the Browns. But yeah, no, I mean that's like the simple answer because that really does kind of give you grit. I mean, like in working as a commercial fisherman too, did that because you work like 90, 100-hour shifts for a couple months. You come home, you realize this is not work. What I do, this is not work. Freezing my ass off in Bristol Bay was work. And freezing my ass off in Bristol Bay was work, And there's guys up there that are like 55 years old. They got no retirement plan. They got nothing going for them. You know what I mean? So that's what they got to do. The stuff that's hard was hard for me as an 18-year-old guy, like fresh off of football and everything. That was still really tough for me. They were still doing it when they were like 55. So like that really put a good perspective in me. But honestly, having gone through a
Oh
huge
my God.
downswing,
I can't
like
even.
I was making money
Oh,
hand over fist the first like 3 years I played poker, and I've just had a couple years where like the downswing is going to be equally as bad almost always in any kind of form of professional gambling. And yeah, I mean, like I've just had a number of things happen at once, like Black Friday, and a couple horses ran off with some money, not a ton. A couple really good horses just running really bad for a long time, and some of my own personal businesses had some huge problems at that time, and then two just went belly up, and I mean that was pretty tough. That was like 2 years of work, like 80 hours a week, you know what I mean? And then uh, you just you mismanage a few things, the market wasn't ready, and you lose it. And having all that really make me a lot more humble is probably the realizing I was probably really overestimating my abilities in business, and poker was probably the best thing for me. That downswing was probably the best thing for me because I got real broke, and I just got cleaned out by a few things that happened. I said, you know what, man, let's just move it back to, I called it my grind hole. I got this really bad apartment in San Jose, and I probably could have afforded something a little bit better, but I just stayed there, and I started just studying and teaching and grinding like all day, every day for like 6 months, 9 months, however long I was there. And then I moved up to the mountains when I finally decided to get sober. And that was pretty intense because it was a lot like Rocky Four. I felt like when he's running. I mean, except for the snow, but like I mean, like every day I
Battle
was
man.
running. It is a battle. Did you deal with addiction?
Um, Not so much myself. I mean, I had
Yeah,
pornography
but you saw.
addictions when I was younger. My
Oh
wife
yeah,
is coming up on 9 years sober from drugs and alcohol.
good for her,
So
man.
yeah, yeah, like huge victories in lives, and
Yeah,
I've known her for most of my life, so I've been through it with her.
that's
It's
good,
rough.
man. It is really rough, and it was, yeah, like that pornography, man. That's so dangerous. Like it's,
Yeah.
like I remember when I was a kid, like you had to work to get your pornography, right? There was one kid in our neighborhood named Travis, and We would literally like open up this locked drawer with like screwdrivers and a flashlight to flip a few pages of a Playboy his dad had, right? Now it's just like with the Pornhub and everything, man, it's just nonstop all the time and it's violent and crap. And I'm just, like, people, I'm a libertarian. I believe if people want to watch pornography, that is their right. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Like, I think whatever you want to do with your body is your right. It doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah.
like, and I just find like, it's made by men for men. So you kind of get these images of like how sex should be, and it's like real bad for you. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Going back to, yeah, essentially, like, I had a real humbling period where I was up in the mountains and I was running on the foothills like every day because I was like trying to get sober and like I was just trying to sweat it out. And it was real tough, but at the same time, it was one of the best times of my life, even though I was super broke and, I was like 5 years into the game, just because like I realized if you come at poker with like a real humbling look at it, if you just go like, look, I don't know anything, I'm just trying to get better, I'm just trying to have fun, this is a fun game, you know what I mean? Praise be to God, I'm even in this. Then you start learning a lot, and that was kind of the whole idea behind the myth of poker talent. It's like, look, I don't even profess to be that good at poker. I think I'm solid, but I still think I have a lot to learn. But these are my ideas, and this is how you study. And if you want to disprove some of my ideas, that'd be awesome because that makes me a better poker player and that makes you a better poker player. And that's really more about what I'm all about.
For sure. Let me hit on one more light topic that we got from a
Yes,
viewer.
sir.
Here for the questions as ask you about your rap battles. That was he's not very specific, so
That's
how
pretty.
did that come about and how does that relate to what you're doing now?
No, I mean the rap. Somebody asked me. I don't know if any of y'all know who the source is, but he's a legend in battle rap, right? He's been doing it for like 10, 15 years. Back when they were still doing the freestyle competitions, the way they did it, like if you ever saw the movie 8 Mile, like they play the beat and you have to freestyle. And you would have some like things in the back of your mind, like, oh, I'll say this to this guy, that, but you were really expected to come up with stuff on the spot, and you were called out if you didn't do it. And like he crushed those competitions, and then battle rap over the last like 10 years has shifted to a written format, which a lot of people don't like, but I think is really interesting because it essentially, it gives these incredible writers like 2 months to come up with something that I don't. When some of these guys are rapping, if you're there live, you feel like you've crossed into the fourth dimension. It's just so crazy to listen to what they do with language. And yeah, anyway, the Source did really well in that format too. He was looking to battle a poker player, and I think Lance Bradley was the guy who brought it up to me when he was running bluff. He was like, "Would you battle the Source?" And of course, my first response was, "Hell no, I'm not doing that." Right? And then I kind of thought like, I think people pay like $2,000 to battle the Source. You know what I mean? Like, and I was thinking, if it really scares you, you need to do it, right? Like, it kind of, if it's something you're really interested in, and like, back in the day, like, you'd be waiting at a bus stop and you'd just be bored and you'd start dissing your friend, then he'd diss you, and then eventually it got boring for the spectators, so you start rhyming it, and then just every day it got fun to like just come and see if you could get a reaction out of people while you're making fun of your buddy, right? And I was like, okay, I did that. I can try to do that versus Source. And my first battle with the Source, I think, was really bad, but I wanted to keep doing it, right? So DFW Battle League, it's this Southern Battle League. They had me on. They made me. It was like my first mainstream battle, and they made me versus Plan 9 the main event because like I'm not sure if they ever had like an out of town MC before that, and that was real. I really like them as far as life experiences because people go like, why would you practice for like 3 weeks to do something that's over in like literally 20, 30 minutes, right? And like when you're rhyming, it's only like 9 minutes, right? And the thing is, you can just always have that in your back pocket. You know what I mean? You can always think about, oh, I had that experience and I got out of it. I did it. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah, I
yeah, the
feel yeah.
100 hour week.
I started doing a
Yeah,
podcast and we don't really know if it's going to go anywhere, but just the opportunity to do something and create something is pretty cool.
right. Yeah, man. And your podcast will do. I mean, it's one of those things. If you do it just for the love of it, it can take off. You know what I mean? It sounds like,
Yeah, it's
I
just
mean,
like poker.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, if you're praying when you start these things, I mean, that to me shows me you're actually doing it for the reasons you want to do it, right? You're not trying to please other people. You're doing it to be true to yourself. And I think people really respect that. So I think you got a good shot, you know. And I don't say that to everybody. Some people are like, we're hoping this podcast is going to take off. I'm like, all right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
From
But
what I hear from everyone when you're a content creator, it's just like put good stuff out there and then let it happen.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, and you gotta remember, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, you just gotta, I've always just had this attitude where if you try to help people, eventually they will try to help you back. And that's really weird for me, just coming from a Christian background. I don't believe people are good. Like necessarily, I don't believe like people have like a good nature about them, but I do believe the majority of people that'll get really into good content, they do want to pay it back at some point. So if you've been making a podcast for like a year or two, which was essentially what I did, and then I said, hey guys, I got this idea for like a webinar. Apparently we'll all sit around a screen and I'll talk and I'll go through a PowerPoint, and people are like, I'm on board. Let's do this. And that's really when it gets fun, you know what I mean? And they're helping you, you're helping them. That's really the ultimate.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic of content creation, shout out to Cat Pubes. He says, Alex, do you remember me? And he wants to know when you're going to get back on Twitch because you're one of his favorite streamers.
My bad, man. Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you guys. There's been some life stuff. I have a private life I like to keep private. So, I mean, just out of respect for everybody involved, there was some stuff going on in the family that was pretty bad, and I had to take care of that for a while. And not bad, like, you know, anybody like wronged anyone. It was just tough to deal with, you know what I mean? And then,
I feel you.
yeah, and so for a while, I was just like, you know what, man, I don't want to be doing Twitch because I'm going to be yelling at people and blah blah blah, right? And then I realized, you know, uh, eventually I do want to get back on Twitch because I like doing this stuff. It's I think what we're gonna try to do is I'm gonna get a really small laptop and I'm gonna put all my video files from when I record. My dogs are really into this idea. Maybe you can hear them barking, but yeah,
Just a little bit.
yeah, they're into it. They're into it. But like, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record all the times I play once I come back, and when I do that, I'm gonna like just when I'm traveling, I'm gonna bring this kind of like dinky laptop. You know what I mean? Go to a Fry's and buy like a $300 laptop. I'm just gonna stream from Twitch like everywhere as much as I possibly can. You know, and I'll do it live. I'll do reruns. But yeah, I want to do it big. It's just been, you know, one of those things. This is one of these things. Can you hear this guy not barking? Can you hear this guy honking? Can you hear this
Yeah.
dude?
Nah, you're
This is
good.
something they do in Costa Rica. Hold on. If you're going to interview me, you're going to get complaints about Costa Rica. So when they show up in a neighborhood and they're like trying to find somebody, they honk the horn like 20, 30 times. It doesn't matter if they're picking you up for a flight for the airport at like 4 in the morning. They'll like just start honking the horn at like 20, 30 times, wake up all your neighbors. By the way, nicest people in the world when they're not in their cars. But when they're in their cars, they like, it's just like Jekyll and Hyde. They're just like, it comes out. Every Costa Rican will agree with you on that. Like, I'm not even joking with that. Okay, so anyway, next
Yeah,
one.
I live on the East Coast, so I got a little feel for
You know what it is?
the rude horn honking. It's like they drive with their hand. You know, they got one hand at 12 o'clock and one hand on the horn, ready to go.
Yeah, like, what, are you allowed to keep? I remember in New York, my boy was honking, and the police came by, and they were like, "Hey, that's a ticket now if you're doing that for no damn reason." I was like, "Really?" Like, maybe he was just messing with us. But can you? What part of the East Coast are you on?
So I'm in Maryland right now, between DC and
Nice.
Baltimore.
Nice, nice. So you're right next to all them casinos, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I moved
Nice.
out here. Do the live poker grind, Twitch a couple days a week.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's a good time. Live poker's good right now. Live poker hasn't gotten tougher in 5 years, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it's surprising it hasn't gotten tougher, and it's kind of booming in some regards. Like
Yeah, it
numbers
is.
are kind of picking up a little bit, so
And I
solid
mean,
spot to be.
I like the live poker too because you get to, you get to meet the mailman, you get to meet the guy who runs like insurance companies. I met a guy who has like the biggest pot dispensary in this one country, and then I'm not one country, but this one state. I don't want to blow his cover or whatever, but yeah, like getting to talk to all those people and learn about their industries. I was like, man, this is different. You know what I mean? Like this is cool. You know, getting to learn about all this. But yeah, you don't get that online, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I got Rehard 4A in chat
Riyadh
giving you a
Dortmund.
shout out.
Yeah,
Says
what's
he's your
good? Riyadh.
says that you're his favorite coach.
Thanks,
Oh,
man. I appreciate that, man.
warms my heart.
Latvia, what up? Latvia, what up? Anyway, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So one thing that I noticed in your book is that maybe I mean, we don't want to put any books on blast, but kind of unlike some books, you're more trying to get at how do you think about poker, not
Right,
necessarily a handbook of how do you play ace king early position.
right,
So was that
exactly.
a conscious decision that you made that you want to really get to the nitty gritty? Like, how can I make them better
Right.
that they can learn lifetime?
Yeah, that was a very conscious decision. When I was 17 years old, I read The Theory of Poker. I thought it was the most boring book I'd ever read in my life, and then I promptly read it 3 times, just because it was. There's a second edition. If you guys are ever going to look for this book, there's a second edition that was rewritten by a writer. I'd really recommend you get that edition because I had a very comprehensive edition from the library. But I mean, this was one of those things that this was a life-changing moment for me, and it didn't really seem like anything. I got every poker book from the library when I was 16, 17, because one of the great things about Seattle is they have just an incredible library system, right? So I ordered them all, I picked them all up, and I just devoured them. And 99% of them were just garbage, right?
Yeah.
Just garbage, especially back in 2006, right? I mean, they were just, they'd have like a couple ideas that were pretty interesting. And to be fair, a lot of these guys were making good money at poker. It's just, if it's so natural to you, it's really hard to articulate why you do certain things. So I've fallen into this trap before where I say, I feel like, oh, the thought process behind this is a little complex. I'm going to take a shortcut and just explain the play. And if they do the play, they're really likely to make a profit. In some case, it'll work for years, but at some point, it will stop working. And if they don't know how you came to that realization, they're not going to be able to change with the times. And now you might have sunk them entirely. And even when I was 17, when I was reading The Theory of Poker, I realized this is insane. Like, this is what I need right now, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is it taught me how to think like a poker player, and that actually helped me a lot in life. As far as like you can uh, you can gamble on a lot of things when it comes to life, and I don't mean like putting money on it, but like you're doing like risk reward analysis, and you think about it like a poker player. You'll start seeing things in a lot clearer light. Like I remember in 2006. I didn't go to college, and I was in a really good high school, Inglemoor High School. I think Time Magazine put it as like one of the 100 best high schools in the country, and like kids would like come in from wherever, right? Like and to go there, and I was just screwing around. I just got there on accident. I was in the area, right? But like everybody was going to college, and my guidance counselors were like, if you don't go to college, like you will die, right? They were like, everything is going to go wrong for you if you don't go to college. And I was really terrified about that. And I was really ready to get all the student loans and everything. But like reading The Theory of Poker got me thinking more like tactically. And I was thinking, well, what's the worst thing that happens if this degree thing doesn't work out? And I was like, well, I'm 150K in debt and it's 4 years, 6 years later, right? Well, what's the worst thing if this poker thing doesn't work out? And I realized, well, I'll be right back to where I am, which is, just broke, living on people's couches and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, so there's no risk when it comes to poker. Okay, I'm going to try poker. And that was one of the best choices I ever made in my life. And unfortunately, a lot of people in 2006 didn't make that decision because the economy was booming, so it seemed like the right idea to get that degree. And, unfortunately, they're 40K in debt, 80K in debt,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And it's tough. And with the Myth of Poker Talent, I was like, I want to write the book. Like, I want some 17-year-old kid to hopefully you start playing when you're 18, play home games until then. All right, kids. But like, I want some kid like I was to get that book and be like, it is possible. You know what I mean? I can do these things. I can teach myself. And it's not just about poker. It's about teaching yourself how to work for yourself. You know what I mean? That can be from poker. The only way I know how to teach you is from poker, but I also want to try to give you the mentality that gets you out of it. Because like my worst days broke on my own were not near, like I used to have a job, like I used to work security. It was the easiest job in the world. I literally like went to work and I would just sit there, for like 8 hours. Sometimes I was allowed to read, other times I wasn't. Uh, I just had coffee and I could walk around with my coffee and nobody cared. And I would talk with people and I got to, and essentially, it's essentially you get paid all day to like flirt with the girls that are working at the company you're doing security for. And I just wanted to kill myself. I was so bored. You know what I mean? It was just, it was fine. But at the same time, you're like, this is what dead end looks like. And you start seeing like everybody starts putting on weight because they're really intellectually not stimulated by anything. So they just kind of eat and, they go out to dinner all the time and they gossip a lot. And I realized like, man, this is what life's like when you're not working for yourself, right? And yeah, there were some people that took care of themselves, but it was, and yeah, the theory of poker got me out of that. So I was just trying to make something similar like that.
Nice. So I got a good story from one of my regulars, Alpha. Alpha
All
VA,
right.
shout out to Alpha. He's a local guy around here, hangs around Twitch streets. So he's got a story about your book. He
Nice.
says, a dude I know was at Barnes& and Noble, pulled Alex's book, and took pictures of every page of his new book, got caught, and was kicked out of the store. There's no
Uh,
question there, but like, how can you be mad at the guy with that much determination to get
That's
better at
quite a
poker?
bit, man. Wow, man. Well, that's something I would have done when I was younger, so I can't really hate
Totally.
on you. You know what I mean? But it is just the price of. I got, I got two pizzas from Papa John's the other night and a few drinks, and it was $40, and I was like, hey, my book's 25. Like, why would, man? You know what I like? And people just pick up pizza like nothing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, man. That's pretty funny. If anybody knows that dude, tell him to get in contact with me. I want to shout him out for his world-class cheapness. But how do you take a picture of every
I
page?
know that's some determination right
That
there.
is determination right there. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I bet you got another question.
Yeah. Well, guys, keep 'em rolling in.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm here.
I'm
Here to
gonna pull
sell.
up. I'm gonna pull up my notes on your book. Taking notes, crazy.
Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot. That's
Yeah.
cool.
One thing that I thought was cool was that in your book, so your book is the first one that I've seen that actually speaks to and really utilizes poker software.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Well, yeah, you're like going in depth into like Card Runners EV was one especially used a lot,
Yeah.
and I mean, I don't read many poker books honestly, but I
I
don't
mean,
recall ever seeing a poker book actually go into like this is how you use the software and this is how you use the software to get better.
yeah, it was like writing Windows for Dummies at some point, but
Yeah,
like yeah, it was I put that in there because I'm not even claiming to be great with the software. Like half the time, I know the guy who created Card Runners EV, but like I sent him a lot of things and he'd be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I was sitting there like, damn it, right? And then when I realized, oh, like this is what I'm doing wrong, I was like, I really just wanted to write a guide for my students, right? Just to be like, don't do this because if you do this, this is going to happen, right? It's user error every single time with me, but I
yeah,
think you guys can get through it, right? And then it's so cool to be able to put that in a book and have it help people. And some of those like Card Runners EV analyses are really wild. Like the one in the book, I don't know if you got to this, but I was referencing there's 3 or 4 times I put like 10 pages in this book and I say like if I sold you these 10 pages for $50, I would sleep just fine tonight. I would not feel guilty at all, right? It would
yeah,
be a good deal for you. One of those 10 pages is about cap boards. Essentially, I found this heads up situation where if we can rule out overpairs in two pairs, and I literally created a simulation where the guy just closes his eyes and bets half pot, jams the river, and the other guy on the other side calls with not third pair, but like a pocket pair above third pair. So that's pretty wide. That's like a really good call, right? If the guy is just closing his eyes and jamming on any river. And that dude is not turning a profit. The guy who's closing his eyes and gambling on that cap board is turning a profit. Now, obviously, you want to approach this with far more finesse than my simulator can do, right? But that is a wild, wild thing to realize. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff with Card Runners EV, like, it took me hours and hours and hours to figure out how to use that software and then try to figure out what problems I wanted to solve. And it's really cool just to like give it to like Rihards is one guy, and there's a few other guys that write me, and they're like, oh, after I got the guide, it was like I don't think Riard said this, but there was this other guy, I think his name's Josh, but he was like, yeah, it took me like 10, 15 minutes to do this, and then he sends me another. analysis like that, which I couldn't talk about because it's his, but unless he gives me permission. And then, it's a similar realization. And that's when poker becomes intoxicating at that point, because it's like, oh my God, I see into the matrix. You know what I mean? All these guys with their Beat headphones and their designer hoodies, they don't know. They don't know. But yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time.
Nice. So I got a question from Brett here.
What's good, Brett?
What's Yeah, Brett's the faithful man. That guy works so hard for Twitch.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah, Brett. What's good, man? Hey.
What is the first most important change or direction to take to become a poker pro
Oh,
for
that's a
those that
great
might be
question.
pursuing it?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, this is something I've been thinking about lately, which it's really come like I remember when they were calling Phil Ivey the Tiger Woods of poker, right? And he heard that and he was like, "Yo, I want like get rid of that, right? Like I don't like that." And they were like, "Why?" And he's like, "You can't call anybody the Tiger Woods of this game because I mean sometimes the luck's with you, and sometimes it's not." This is a guy who has done things that make it look like he has like Jedi blood running through his veins, right? And even he realizes this is gambling at the end of the day, okay? You can dress it up however you want. It is, you can become a professional gambler. I've been doing this for 10 years, right? But at the end of the day, you got to remember this is not a sport. This is gambling, all right? So goofy crap happens all the time. I've been one outed for over $100,000. I've had funds seized. I've had a lot of crap happen to me. And you know what? I think one of the only reasons I'm still in this game, whereas there's a lot of guys that got, had the exact same things happen to them on Black Friday for a lot less money, and they're still not around. They're still not improving. It's just because at the end of the day, I said, this is gambling. This isn't that hard of a job. I just enjoy it for the reason I do it. And if you won't do it for free, that's another thing. I wrote hundreds of articles before people started paying me to coach them, right? And I did it for free because I enjoyed it. I liked getting my thoughts together. I liked writing. I liked, having the coffee and like getting my thoughts together and going through my notes and all that stuff. And because I did that for free, a lot of investors at, different points wanted to put money down on me. Now, sometimes, it's still professional gambling, though. When you're working with other people, you got to explain, like, this is still gambling. Just because I can write well doesn't mean, everything's going to be ship shape. But you got to always remember it's gambling. And if you're not going to do it for free, you're not going to do it when anyone pays you. All right? That's just how it is. If you won't do it for yourself, you're not going to do it for another person. That's just how it is. Okay? So just, if you look at this as like a fun game, if you were playing chess down at the park, you would not expect to make a profit from it, right? If you were playing, this is the crazy thing to me. Like these guys, like people will like play golf like 4 times a week, right? And if they go out to the U.S. Open, they don't expect to be playing with Tiger Woods. I mean, back when Tiger Woods was in it. But yeah, anyway, they don't expect to be like crushing it. People will walk into their first poker tournament having played 8 home games and expect to win it. That is truth. Everybody will do that.
It's definitely true.
Everybody. Yeah, it's really funny because like with golf, I hate golf. I couldn't. I think I made a joke about golf in the game in the book. I was like, I was trying to just study mental toughness, and I couldn't find anything more mentally grating than the game of golf. So I looked into it, and really, golf is one of the greatest examples of what you should be doing in poker. There's a lot of doctors who are scratch golfers now. How is that when they work such crazy hours? Well, they do deliberate practice. When they go out to the driving range, they work on their drive. Then they go out to the putting green and they work on their chip shot. They have one specific thing they're trying to work on. Maybe their chip shot's not that good. Maybe their long putting's not that good. Maybe their drive isn't that good. They might get in like 18 holes like once a week or 4 times a week if you're Obama. But no, sorry, I had to I had to rip on. I just can't believe that. I'm like, man, this dude's got some. But I mean, I don't know. At the same time, people give Obama. I am totally against Obama's politics and everything. But like, if the dude's golfing as opposed to like drinking himself silly, I'm totally fine with that to get over his stress. But yeah, anyway. But you get like 1 time a week. You know what I mean? And you just try to focus on the things that are beating you. And maybe it takes like 5 years, maybe it takes 10 years, but at some point, a lot of these guys can become scratch golfers. It's the same thing in poker. there's a reason why at a lot of WPT final tables, they're like, and this guy's a businessman. And, he's 55 and everybody kind of, the younger guys, the 28-year-old guys think like, oh, I'm going to smash this guy. And then, the business guy just stomps their ass because he's been working all these years. He's been thinking about something when he might only get to play cards a couple times a week, but at the end of the day, he's really thinking about it because he's enjoying it. And he was like, I didn't play that well. Maybe I should try to work on that next time. And that's deliberate practice. If you can get into this idea of I'm doing this for fun, I'm trying to see how far I can go, it's about the pursuit. Studies show if you're pursuing something, you are a happier person. It doesn't mean you have to achieve it. You have to be pursuing something, right? That's why people in Italy live till they're 200 years old because they're so into their gardens and stuff. You know what I mean? And I mean, and honest to God, that's there's a part of Costa Rica called Nicoya, and like everybody lives to 115. And when I went out there, I saw why, and it's because the 95-year-old guy is still working on his house, trying to make it presentable, and he's still dating. You know what I mean? He's still working on a couple projects, right? And it's like, oh wow, I guess that's what keeps you in it. And just kind of expecting rewards without the work is the absolute fastest way to make sure it doesn't work out.
Right on. I think that totally gets to what we were talking about earlier, that you got to have passion for it. So
Yes,
I'm with you there. I got an email from a friend of mine, Zach. He wants to know, how beneficial is it to study the regulars in your game versus studying your own play? Like, how much should you be doing of each of those?
I'm glad you even think about that, Zach, and shout out, thank you for the question. Because when you're playing like cash, like I was never, ever, like I used to do the douchebag thing when I was 21, like, oh, you play cash? Yeah, 10-20. And like what they made, Timex totally called it one time. He was like, when people say they play 10-20, that means they played 10-20 once. And I was like, well, I did play 25-50 once, and I played 10-20 like 4 times, but okay, yeah, you're right. So the truth is, I used to bum hunt at 1-2 and 2-4, and that paid all my bills when I was on the EPT, right? When I was on the tour, right? And it wasn't fun waking up at 6 in the morning and hungry in some apartment I rented for peanuts, but to work, right? But at the same time, it was really rewarding when you were studying the regulars because some of these networks I played on, I was just bum hunting, but there was like 20 regulars that weren't that good. And I always had to deal with them. And then one day I just opened all my databases and looked, and I just made a scouting report, right? Like I felt like it was Bill Belichick, you know what I mean? It was like, you got to do this, you got to do that. And like, it was intoxicating the next couple of sessions, just hammering these people, knowing exactly what their weaknesses were, and noticing for weeks they didn't change it. Poker players are really stubborn. And then you can't really do that as much today, just because, well, you can't do it as much today because poker players adjust a lot faster, so you can break some of these ATMs if you figure it out. But it's always amazing. Like, there was a poker player who handed my ass to me in like 2006, 2007. I got to play with him 3 years later, and he was just so blindingly bad. It was like I couldn't believe how unbalanced he was, and how, because I'd studied, I knew exactly what to do, and I just took his chips, right? And that was an incredible feeling because I worked for that. That was bred from my work. That was not anybody giving it to me. That was not any, you know what I mean? That wasn't any government body saying like, you get this loan. That wasn't anything like that. That was something I gave to myself. Now, studying your own game, I feel is really beneficial because you can see, I mean, that's all we work on when we do personal lessons. I try to find your specific leagues. And we do talk about that a bit in the book, The Myth of Poker Talent, how to identify your specific leagues, and with Master Poker with 1 hour a day, the webinar I did. But at the same time, I find a lot of people get really into this like game theory stuff, right? Which is, I've read books about game theory. It's pretty fascinating to me. I don't really feel like you need to be playing game theory optimal ranges when a lot of times you play in tournament poker too. That's a really bad time to study the regulars because you're not going to see them that often. But also, if you're not seeing regulars that often, you're playing 50, 60 hands with somebody and then they go off to another table. I think a lot of times you should just be cashing out your equity on a lot of these, hands where perhaps it would be a little bit better to check with the backdoor flush draw on the third pair to balance out your checking range, like over the next couple of years, versus that one person. But if you're not going to play 3 years with the guy, just go ahead and bet and cash out your equity. And yeah, but I don't know. I spend probably 80, when you're playing tournaments, I spend 80, 90% of my time studying myself, studying the big blind per 100 numbers from each position with each condition, seeing that's amazing because you just keep applying like every quick filter and then you'll just come to one where it's like, whoa, this is a train wreck.
Oh man, those are some humbling moments, aren't they?
They're really humbling. Well, and a lot of people don't want to do it because they go, my entire life is a lie. But like you are like, I never deserve to win. I suck, right? All my downswings were actually my own fault. But that should be a really hopeful thought. Like, oh, you can turn it around. You know what I mean? Like that's entity-based thinking versus incremental. Like a lot of people believe like poker is like sex or driving or something along those lines. You're either born with it or you're not. That's completely not true. And if you go in with like, look, I suck at this one thing, I'm never going to develop, instead of being humbled like it sounds like you want to be, and then just moving on, people just go, well, this sucks. This is stupid. I've been playing for 7 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. I love that one too. It's like, yeah, I'm sure a lot of guys, they played in the MLB for 20 years before they kicked their asses out of the league. Just longevity doesn't mean anything if eventually you're going to get kicked out by your makeup total or by your behavior. But yeah, anyway, I'm babbling as per usual. But yeah.
we actually got a couple questions piling up, so it's a good thing.
Sweet.
A couple shout outs. Mega, WF. We got a couple people on Twitter. Going on, folks. Crisco, fellow streamer. We got one from Mega. Do you speak any other languages or play a musical instrument? Poker seems like a language to me. Any recommendations for fun hobbies to study that reinforce poker besides rap?
Yo hablo un poquito español, pero yo tengo que practicar más porque yo hablo como un gringo totalmente cuando yo hablo en este idioma, lo siento. But like I just said, no, all I said was like I speak some Spanish, I need to practice more, but I still talk like a total gringo. And actually, my Spanish is actually pretty bad because I never took a formal class, I just listened, so I can't conjugate anything. So I have to use the infinitive term for everything.
Conjugating verbs, that's the worst.
There are 20. Well, this is an interesting thing. You want to talk about deliberate practice. Are you a fan of Tim Ferriss, Chase?
I've listened to like a couple of his podcasts, but I haven't really gotten into Ferriss.
He's an acquired taste. Let's be honest, he's a bit of a weirdo. But like he's an odd duck, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of these things like I work with poker players that are like a galaxy away from where I'll ever be. And every time before I go to do that lesson, I remind myself, this guy's going to be a little eccentric. This guy's going to be a little off. And every single time, that's right. And, not always, actually. But there's a few guys that are just like the Chip Reese, like consummate professional. But, yeah, if you're that, I think he's a really brilliant guy. So, of course, he's kind of off-putting with some of the things he says. But, yeah, he had a thing where he was talking about Spanish. This is why this guy's a genius. He was like, he tried to learn a language for like 3-4 years in school and he couldn't do it, right? And then he started looking into it and he realized all they were doing was conjugating verbs in his high school Spanish class. Let's apply that to English. According to the Oxford Dictionary, there are 20,000 verbs in the English language. If you're going to be studying verb conjugation, solamente, only that in English, it is going to be a very long time before you're speaking any English. What he said was, now in English, 65% of everyday conversations are composed by the same 200 words, right? If you can learn that, you will start seeing the context of a lot of sentences and you will start being able to fill in the blanks. And that's essentially what I did was I started memorizing the key words that I kept hearing every day. And then that helped me. Well, the only word I don't identify in this sentence is this one, and they're pointing at a ball. So I assume that means ball. But at the same time, if I didn't know any of those words, I'd be like one of those, expats that, they live in Thailand for 17 years. They don't know how to ask for a beer. And there's a lot of guys like that in Costa Rica too. And I don't know, to me, that's just embarrassing. But yeah, pretty much any hobby, I think is that really requires deliberate practice, I think is really good. Uh, if you can just find a way to enjoy getting better at something without putting pressure on you, you'll probably translate that to poker. Languages are good. I would really recommend trying to make it as fun as possible. So, you know what I mean? I'd actually put yourself like I would actually like plan for a vacation to Mexico or something and then put yourself in some situations where you'd have to use it or something like that. Make a bet with your buddy. It's like you guys can play chicken. Whoever chickens out has to pay $500 to the other guy, but you have to like go up to a girl and speak in Spanish. Like if you have the stakes are that high, you will be studying Spanish before you get there, right? You will be enjoying it. But anyhow, I think physical things are also really good. So if there's like a sport you really enjoy, I think that's really good because you can get better at that as you're doing it. It's also good because it's active. It's not in front of the computer screen and stuff like that. I spend 12 hours a day on the computer to the point I absolutely hate my computer at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like I just can't stand it. Like people do that. I sent you an email like 44 minutes ago. Why didn't you respond to me? And it's like, well, dude, like it's 9 p.m. I don't, you know, I don't know. I didn't have a smartphone until 2 years ago because my wife bought me one and said, use this, you know what I mean? And then, anyway, it's, just try to get out there, try to get meetup.com also is good. People meet up for like just pick up sports on that. I think that's good as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Meg summed it up too. She pulled out a gem that you said, deliberate practice while enjoying it.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. That sounds way more intelligent than what I said. So thank you.
You said it, man. She took your words and molded it into a little package of perfect.
Yeah, that's the real intelligent people, the people who can take like the real lesson out of like the psychobabble for 20 minutes.
My wife was she cracks me up. She can like just babble on and on and on about trying to explain something or telling me a story, and I just like listen to everything she says, and I say like 4 words and sum up her entire thought. And she's like, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no, that's how women have that. They're really interested in the emotion around something or like the buildup, and I think that makes them much better like caretakers. But it's really weird when you're a nuts and bolts guy and you're like, okay,
yeah. So stop
said
talking
this.
about feelings. I just want to fix things.
Yeah, exactly. I read Women Are from Mars too and all that stuff, right? But yeah, anyhow.
All right, I got one of my faithful followers, one of my mods, WFKS. He's got a question. Alex, of all your webinars, which one do you think you must have? Great question.
The best one, I think, probably Master Poker with 1 hour a day was. That was kind of the turning point when I realized we can really make webinars like its own business model, just because it was so professionally done by the guy I worked with. And we're actually gearing up to like do a whole new site and everything. Like my old site, Poker Head Rush, I literally spent like $100 on, and it did a lot of things that I liked. Like, ooh, it's got clicking buttons and flashing buttons, sweet, right? And it's got the YouTube links, but I look at that site now and I'm like, this is a piece of crap. This is a terrible site. Like, this is a good site for like a blog. And if you guys want to sign up for my newsletter and get like free strategy articles every week, be sure to do that at pokerheadrush.com. It's right to the right. And, but yeah, like, I realized I needed a new site because when we were doing this webinar, I was like, it was like Paul Allen when he got like Jimi Hendrix's guitar. It was like, this is too nice of a thing for my house. I need like a place where people can view this. So he made the Experience Music Project. When I made Master Poker with 1 hour a day, I was so happy with it, so satisfied with it. So I really felt like I made a product that was like super helpful to people, you know what I mean? And then I decided I needed a website for this. And Master Poker with 1 hour a day is about how you can study your own game. We don't get too much into like the reg bum hunting because I haven't played cash in years. So I don't feel like I'd be a really formal authority on that. But I've never gotten a negative review on that. Everybody who's bought that has written, not everybody, but a lot of people write me back saying like, I improved my win rate by this much, or I improved my win rate by that much. And it's all about how you can up your win rates, how you can study on your own. And it really gives you a game plan so that you don't have to keep buying books. You don't have to keep buying a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who make poker stuff I mean, let's just be frank. They're cashing in. You know what I mean? They get real hot. They make a ton of money. You know, they do the typical poker player thing, which is, I'm going to rent a ballin' mansion for a year. You know what I mean? 4K a month. Money's gone a year later. They're back at their parents' house. They're not telling people that. I'm back home, man. I wanted to see my friends and tailgate a bit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm at my parents' house, but, I'll be out of here in a week. And, a week turns into 4 months. You know what I mean? And they start smoking a little pot and they're getting slow. And then they decide, I need a couple of bucks here because I'm running out of money and I gotta pay, whatever, my car payment or whatever it is, right? With some of them, it's child support, but yeah, anyway. And then they do a poker video and they're not really that into it, and when they do that poker video, they're giving you strategies that worked for them a couple of years ago and do not work for them anymore. There's a reason a lot of them want to do poker videos. And my whole thing has always been trying to avoid that. Like, you can watch this, you will have a game plan for a very long time. You're not gonna, I also hate the spoon feeding coaches. That also drives me. Like, I've heard guys say like, oh yeah, I don't let go of everything I don't tell everything in a lesson, right? And I'm like, why? I mean, it's like if you were teaching advanced calculus, you could say everything, and it's not like everybody's going to grasp all of it. You know what I mean? Like if you're teaching, you will always, as the master, you will always be better than them until some, 2 or 3 of them are going to work their ass off and kick your ass one day. But that's just inevitable. If they're not going to learn from you, they're going to learn from somebody else, right? But the vast majority of people, if you're the teacher, you're going to know the material better, and you're going to know it even better once you become a better teacher. So you're really just cheating yourself when you do that. But yeah, anyway, very long-winded answer once again.
Oh, I like it. That reminds me, you hit it on the hook of not just taking everything that good players say at face value.
No, yeah, exactly. Even me, study everything I say. I might be wrong. It's happened to me before. I've had strategies that worked really well. I had a strategy that worked really well in 2010, 2011. I checked out my filters on 2012, 2013. I was hemorrhaging money, and it took me a year to figure out. Yep. And if you had followed my advice on that strategy, now, fortunately, this doesn't happen anymore because everything I tell you, I've researched 3 ways to Sunday.
Sure, but when you're going to publish, you do your homework.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. When you're publishing, you just assume, somebody at 2 + 2 is going to have something to say if you screw it up, right? And I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I make mistakes all the time. The only difference is I come back to the problems. That's a lot of people never even show up. Half of Woody Allen's, not really a great guy to call an idol or anything, but like Woody Allen said something like half of life is showing up. His first movie he directed, he was literally reading Directing for Dummies before he showed up on the set, right? And people go like, how do these people make it? I'm always telling people they're the only ones who showed up. They're like, oh, you did really well at poker. I'm the only one who showed up. A lot of people, do you know how many guys I know from back in the day who I say like, oh man, you just got to look into this, this, and this, and then this play will make much more sense to you. And it's like, it's an affront to them that you said they needed to study, right? It's like, yeah. Are you saying I'm a bad player? It's like, no, man. Like, do you think Muhammad Ali never trained for a fight? Like, what are you talking about? And then you put in those terms and they get it, but a lot of times people don't. You know what I mean? Or they go, oh yeah, I'll do this. It's like, I don't need this crap. But yeah, anyway, more questions. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. We got a couple coming in from Twitter. First is, Alex, you say anyone can be great at poker, but do you really believe that, or should I have a dollar amount stop loss point and just stop? Kind of a personal question.
Yeah, that changed a little bit. Well, I mean, there's a real power to being bust. You know what I mean? So, hold up. This is a long one. This is a tough answer, all right?
It's kind of, what is life?
Yeah, what is life, man? What is poker, yo? But no, I mean, I do believe anybody can make a good living from poker, assuming you can do some remedial math, right? Which I think for most people that I haven't met somebody you couldn't teach this math to after a while, right? Sometimes some people take longer than others. That would be me. That's one real reason I believe anybody can do it is everybody can always tell you like I was known as a nut peddler. I was the guy. I was the guy who just showed up, and no, I couldn't talk in hand history conversations when I go to these live events. I had just found a way to win ugly for so long, and win in ways that other people were afraid to win. And I didn't really know any of the basics or anything. And everybody could tell you, like when I was doing the home games, like when I was like 15 to 18, there was like this little place called the Poker Hut in Bothell, Washington, and they had tournaments sometimes 2 times a week, at least once a week, sometimes very rarely 3 times a week, right? And I played those tournaments, every single one of them, for like 2 years. I didn't win one, you know what I mean? So, like, there was like 18 people. I didn't win one, right? And eventually, I think I did win a couple, right? It was really funny when I came back there. I was like 19 and I was a professional poker player. It was like the most important thing I ever did in my life was to win that tournament because I was so pissed I'd never won one, right? And then I did end up winning one. But yeah, anyway, uh, it, and when I first got into poker, like I didn't know any of this stuff and I was really bad at a lot of things. And it wasn't for, the first like 3 years I played poker when I was like 15, 16, 17. That's all I did, and like 15, 16, 17, I didn't make any money. 18, I was still working on fishing boats. I was still, like I was literally cleaning like the guts of fish off the hulls of a ship and barnacles, if you can imagine that job. It was like my
Yeah.
fourth year before I started doing anything, you know what I mean? So it was, people do this all like 19 overnight success. And it's like, well, man, if you want to say 40 hours a week from like when you're 15, I mean, like, and I was reading, I was studying, I was doing everything. So I really do believe anybody can make it. Now, you're talking about a stop loss. Stop loss means I think you're risking too much. I think the fact you're considering a stop loss to me means whatever you're gambling with, you do not feel comfortable with. People always ask me, like, how are you a gambler when you're a Christian? I always say it's a gray line. But here's the thing, like, if you go to a movie, as some Gilbert Thurston and I were talking about, and we were talking about, if you go to a movie and it's like $30 to go in, or if you go to a poker tournament, it's $30 to go in. It's entertainment both ways. And I don't know. I didn't go to Deepwater Horizon last night and walk out with $250. That's never going to happen, but it can't, when you think of it that way, it's not really gambling. It's kind of a free roll. You went in for entertainment and maybe something cool will happen, but that was kind of the cool thing about the poker hut in Bothell. It was just in these people's house. And like, when you were done playing, they were playing Tetris on the big screen. They were all getting together for beers, barbecuing, talking a lot, catching up on sports and stuff like that. It was a good time. And I'm really glad I had that because I realized this is how poker is supposed to be, right? And every time I'm not making it fun, that's when I start losing. That's when I start not winning. Excuse me. That was like Donald Trump. He just repeats the same thing to get himself sometime. That's when I started losing,
I
not
didn't
having
say
fun.
that. I didn't say that. I think he said it four more times.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I didn't. We're great, great. My favorite is when he brags about having a club that lets African Americans in. That's pretty. That's progressive. But yeah. Anyway.
Or when he eats a taco bowl and says, "I love Hispanics."
It's not even the right term. like Latinos, bruh. But yeah. Anyway, this election season, I really wish I was a comedian. That would be the only way I'm getting value out of this. You got Gary Johnson, who looks like he's stoned all the time. You got Hillary Clinton, who just, I don't know, programmed. And then you got Donald Trump, who looks like he's trying to lose it, every time. And they just keep giving him votes, right? But yeah, anyway, just like South Park said. But yeah, I mean, essentially, if you're considering a stop loss, my man, I think you're playing with too much money. And again, remember what I said, if you can't do this for free, you're never going to be able to do it when somebody starts paying you. Let's see, let me try to break this down to give you an idea how long it took. It took me, now everybody knows, like, I always tell people I never deposited. That's the truth. A buddy of mine sent me $50 one night. He said, you go ahead and play with this on full tilt. I made $30. I sent him back the 50. He protested. He was a good guy. He was like, I think you need the money right now, man, because I wasn't doing that well, right? And he was a good guy. And I sent it back to him, and I've never deposited, but it took me longer to get that $30 to $1,000 than it took me to get from 1,000 to 100,000, right? Because that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, was grind up that bankroll, right? But I learned so much while doing it. I remember there was like months I couldn't beat like $30 sin goes. Like $30 sin goes were the scariest thing that ever could happen. When the first time I played a $5 tournament and made the final table, like my hands were shaking. I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? And my first 1,000 tournaments on PokerStars, I had a negative 20% ROI. I couldn't beat the $50 sin goes for like 6-9 months. Eventually, I started playing tournaments. I sucked, and that was where the negative ROI came. I went to $15 turbos, and that's all I played for 2 months. It was like 8 hours a day, $15 turbos, thousands of them, right at that time. And it was me and Space Gravy, if anyone can remember that name. He was actually, he's probably still playing. I just never follow poker. But yeah, anyway, it was essentially, I was just grinding them out, and people would make fun of me so much. Oh, your shark scope's so bad. You know what I mean? You suck at this game. How could you call yourself a professional poker player? When I went back to the poker hut, some people were like, "You're playing $16 turbos? Like, how are you doing this for a living?" It was like, it's a good question, right? But because I humbled myself and gave myself so much time with the game, because I was playing small stakes, eventually things started clicking. So my first apartment in Seattle, when I was like 18 years old, was this. It was this like 7-story. It was this 7-story thing that looked like a hotel, right? One day, one of my friends was talking to the manager, right? And they were like, "This was an ugly ass hotel, right? Like, I mean, not hotel, ugly ass apartment complex, right? Like the walls sometimes were just like that really cheap, like kind of plastic, kind of cardboard stuff. And then like they would have fluorescent lights, like blindingly green and white, like on the side of the wall, and it would just shine into your eyes when you walked into your apartment, and Jesus, right? And then you would anyway, some guy asked the guy, why does this place look like a motel? This doesn't really look like an apartment complex. He said, "Oh, this was a motel, but too many people were coming off the freeway to kill themselves here, so I converted it." And yeah, that was my first place. 1 year later, I had a condo in Seoul I was renting, and I had a condo in Seattle I was renting, and I could go between them depending on when the games were good or when not. And the Seoul schedule was pretty good for cash games because I was fresh when everybody else was at really late during the day, and in the United States, so that was really nice. It was, it'd be like 12 there, it'd be like noon, and it'd be like 9 p.m. in the States, and everybody was just starting to get sauced, and I would just be out there, and it was really nice. And, people were like, "Oh, man, you got that dream life." And it was like, oh, no, like that was 3 years of training to get online and then a year of failure online before I got there. So, yeah, I really do believe anybody can make it, but you got to play the smallest stakes you can. You know what I mean? Yeah. Things started becoming a problem when more money was being thrown at me, because I was like, oh, I'll just use this money to play these big tournaments and stuff like that. And then, you start owing people money, and maybe, they're not in the poker industry for, they haven't been in for a long time. So like the makeup totals, like when you're playing 10Ks, you know what I mean? Like people always hear, "Oh, so-and-so's got 400K in makeup." I'm like, dude, that's 40 buy-ins. Have you ever gone
much
on
less
a
the guys
40
who
buy-in
play 25Ks and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I've never played a 25K in my life. I've had offers, but to me, that's just astounding. Yeah, I can't, especially, yeah, exactly. And you see the blind structures, and you're like, this isn't better than like a 1K I played last week. Like, this sucks. Like, if I'm going to play 25K, I better have 6 days. Like, it was the old Bellagio, 25K championship. Is that even still a thing? I don't watch poker on TV.
I think the WPT still does. I think they might have dropped it to like a 10 or 15K championship.
I think that's smarter for the economy as a whole.
Yeah.
I like these 5Ks. I like these 3Ks. I like separating them all over a bunch of events. Yeah. I mean, that's really good for me. Yeah, but yeah,
go ahead. We got a question that kind of leads into. Mega says, "Cool point. So, what's the hardest stake? What's the hardest stake when moving up, in your opinion? I've heard there's more big blinds per hour and low stakes to win in general.
Oh yeah.
So, what's the hardest stake to move up in?"
2-4 I played 2-4 I guess you'd say professionally, although I never felt like with tournaments, there's a lot of times I feel like I'm wrangling them, like I got this. Like I never had that feeling with 2-4, right? But like 2-4 is when people start getting really good, right? And especially if you're playing on Poker Stars, like 255, right? That'll definitely, that's when you start seeing like all the old school grinders playing there, right? And 1-2 is pretty juicy. As far as like tournaments, I think once you get, I don't know, like if you play like the majors, they play pretty terribly. I think it's once you start, you get into those like turbos that only the other regs play. I think that's when it gets, it gets to the point I don't even see the point of playing them. I just don't get it. There's so much variance and your edge is so small. I don't know why you'd be playing those like 109 turbos to,
Yeah.
other than to be like, oh yeah, man, I'm here to gamble, woo woo, and then but like I guess like it's kind of hard for me. Like at the 109s, like the regular speed 109s, you're gonna start running into some guys who can play. That tends to be when you start seeing the guys who know how to play ball. So you got to be on your game because when you get to the final table, you might be playing with a Froz Jocker or someone like that. So yeah, I think that's when it moves up as far as tournaments and cash.
Right on. Like it. Hit both tournaments and cash. Very
Yes, sir.
efficient.
Yes, sir. No,
We got one more question rolling in from Twitter sphere. Which pro players do you admire most and why? And a second part, and why do you think, and any you think, never really made their potential? And
oh man.
shots
Let's
fired.
see. Yeah, shots fired. I'll do that in battle rap. I'll talk crap about you, but when it comes to poker, y'all didn't sign up for that. So no, I mean, okay, let me see if
All
I
right,
can
we
think.
can start with the easy one. Pro
Yeah, the
players that
easy
you
one,
most
guys that
admire.
yeah, exactly. The guys that I admire. Faraz Jaka taught me a lot about the game more than probably anybody ever. I still don't really know why he hung out with me so much because he's the life of the party. You know what I mean? I was kind of like Debbie Downer, like let me listen to my metal and drink coffee, right? And I'd like to think that I would just be hammering on basics all the time when it came to poker. And I think maybe that get, I hope with a guy who can like call with 9 high and be right, maybe I provided like a thou art mortal Caesar once in a while, but like this is an idea to give you what a good friend Jacques is. Okay. Like the best like teacher you could have ever had in poker and wasn't even trying to teach. Right. So there was this one time we were playing the Irish Poker Open. We show up. Somehow we get put at the same table. It sucks. And I get one out. I get set over set. The guy one outs me. Some guy, right? And the dealer said the bet amount, and I just kind of threw the chips that were in my hand in front of him. I could have been a little bit more careful. Nobody had, the dealer totally understood. He didn't care, right? They counted off my chips. I was pretty much bust, right? So we get out there and I'm ready to talk about my bad beat, right? And I'm like, man, I can't believe it. And he was like, why were you pissed? I was like, huh? He was like, why'd you do that to the dealer? Like why'd you throw the chips like that to him? I was like, what are you talking, dude? I just got one outed for like 5K. And he was like, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong. What do you care? Like, he was like, you got to be a professional at all times, buddy. It's not just when you feel like it. And I was like, that really stuck with me. That was a huge moment in my life. I realized like, you are what you repeatedly do. And I had deliberately taken a bad attitude over something I had no control over. I was being super immature, right? And that was kind of, that's a real good lesson about how to get value out of life, right? You got your response is always up to you. That's the only thing you have control over. If you guys are into reading, check out Man's Search for Meaning. It's by a gentleman who's since passed, Viktor Frankl. This was I believe he was a psychiatrist who he went to the Nazi death camps and he wrote a book about his search for meaning when he lost his wife, he lost his parents, he lost everybody, and it's one of the most life-changing books you will ever read, right? And it was pretty much the same thing. What Jocko was saying is like, you can always decide your response wherever you are. And Jocko was always trying to get value out of everything, right? Like I'd be the guy like, dude, I cannot believe we're standing on a train in Italy for 4 hours to San Remo and I'm hungover. me and Paul Verano are hungover, right? And they're not even letting us sit down and it's hot. And Jocko would be like, dude, who gets to go in Italy to go to a 5K tournament in a crowded train through the heart of Italy and get to talk to all these people and get to know, like he was seeing like the positive in everything, right? And then I started, I started seeing like life can be life can be amazing if you're really just trying to enjoy like the little things, because the big things don't happen a lot. You know what I mean? You're not going to score the winning touchdown that many times in your life, right? So if you're constantly looking for that and not trying to just get joy out of every day, you're not going to be a good poker player, I don't think. You're certainly not going to maintain yourself that well, and you're not really going to do that well in life, and that was one of the cool things poker taught me, which I think if I was working in an office and had everything taken care of for me, I don't think I would have gotten that lesson. People who never quite lived up to their potential. Well, I got to be honest with you guys. I don't really follow poker like I used to. Like everybody goes, oh, do you know who was at your table? I'm like, I couldn't care less. Like if you can tell me a strategy read on him, that's great. But if you're going to tell me what he won, I really don't care, because any dumbass can win a tournament. Okay. Like anyone, I've seen it happen before, but who didn't live up to their potential? There's, the thing is like, that would mean I would have to.
Yeah, we don't need to put anyone on blast. We can drop that one.
Yeah, I mean,
think we
like I
covered
can give you a
some of
generic
the
answer. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we covered a lot of the. You covered a lot of the points of, with previous questions of how, stop losses and things like that, and things that can get in the way of your growth.
Right.
Taking good players, ideas for gospel.
Let me talk about it a bit, just because you will know exactly who I'm talking about once I'm done with this. Okay, you will know what's going on.
Not that we're naming names.
No, we're not naming names, but you're gonna be able to apply this to hundreds of guys. There is a thing with poker where you got to ask why you're doing it, right? Now, I play poker because it gives me the time to do what I want. I get to do all the other things I want. So I've tried to write fiction. That's not something a lot of people know. I wrote an entire manuscript. I sent it off. I read it. It's a complete piece of crap. It's never going to get published, right? You know what I mean? I wrote short stories. Nobody ever published them. I finally wrote a book. It worked. But like, I get to write. I get to do what I love, right? I get to do what I love because of poker. And poker has become something I love quite a bit because it gives me so much freedom, right? If you do not have that end goal, you will see this happen with a lot of guys. I cannot tell you how many guys I've heard, I'm trying to buy a house from this game. I'm trying to retire my parents. And then that's it, right? And that's every time when they get the score, they don't really do that. You know what I mean? Unless there was a really good family structure before, because they're really empty. They're empty. They really wonder what their life purpose is, right? So, like, I mean, we all know this. Maybe somebody in your neighborhood, it's like, oh, his dad died and they left him $2 million, and he was just right as rain after that. Nobody ever hears that story. You know what I mean? It's always like, yeah, well, the guy started dabbling a little bit with the drinking. He wasn't doing that well, you know what I mean? So he had to go to a clinic. However, this story you hear, it's like, oh, his parents left him a lot of money, and then he started working out of his soup kitchen, and he was doing a lot better. Men need like a reason to drive, and if you don't have that, you're just going to keep reaching for the stars. I cannot tell you. I had this thing when I started in poker. I was like, these guys are better than you at poker right now. These guys are luckier than you now, but you're going to outweight them. You're going to outwork them, and you're going to outlast them. And 7 years later, by the time I had outlasted them, I had realized I didn't wish any ill on these people ever. I just felt horrible, because I cannot tell you how many guys I know who really loved poker, really enjoyed poker, and then made all the money, thought it was going to save them everything, it was going to, it was going to save them from themselves. They were going to be happy people. And it's like, money doesn't make you happy. You know what I mean? It's, if you're an asshole before money, you will be an asshole after money. It's not going to help you know how to talk to a woman. It's not going to keep you skinny. It's
Can't
not
buy
going
a
to
new
keep
asshole.
No, you can't. Right? It's true. It's true. I've tried. But yeah, anyway, they were like, no, I mean, like, it's not going to teach you how to talk to a woman. It's not going to teach you how to perform something you really enjoy. It's not going to teach you what you really love doing. Those are all things you have to earn by yourself. And there's a lot of guys that, unfortunately, I think, they went higher stakes, they scammed their backers and stuff like that. And it's really sad because it's like, man, this was supposed to be a game. This was supposed to be fun. You know what I mean? Like, isn't this why you started? It was supposed to be fun. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, it becomes tough. It becomes tough. But yeah, anyhow, you got another question before I
Yes,
cut you
sir.
off.
Yes,
My bad.
sir. Acon 007. Thanks for the
Oh,
question,
good.
bud.
That's a
There
great
is so
name.
many to choose from when it comes to coaching. You can give a good explanation of how. Can you give a good explanation of how to choose the right one?
Yeah, and remember, this is coming from a guy that does not do that much private coaching anymore. I really thought it was inefficient. I'm really liking my group classes. I have one group class going on right now with Live Poker 101. If you guys want more information, you can write me at assassinatocoaching@gmail.com or alex@pokeredrush.com. And sorry, I know that's a lot. You don't have to
Ah,
type
get
that,
the plugs in,
Chase.
bud.
No, I've been hearing Chase typing all that, and I'm like, oh, man, that's tough. But yeah, no, I mean, if you guys want to be in that class, that's cool. But like, this is what I did over 1,000 lessons with over 1,000 students, and like, this is uh, when you write a coach, first off, just say like, uh, this is what I'm trying to do with my game. What would be your plan as to what to do with it? And if they say something like, I have like I have a plan, I have something to show you, right? That's usually a really good sign because I've had guys write me and say, this is what I want to work on. And if I don't know how to teach them, I just go, I can't help you, right? And, people write me back like, you're going to turn me down? And I'm like, yeah, if I can't do my job, I'm not going to charge money for it. You know what I mean? And then, but if you write me pretty much anything having to do with no limit hold'em tournaments, I can create a lesson around it because I've studied all that stuff. And I think it's really, I took this pretty far, but like I'd write them back, like, yes, I definitely can train you as far as this and this. And then when you showed up, you would get, I would have specific things planned out, right? And usually there should be a little questionnaire before you start with someone. Or if there's not a questionnaire at the beginning of my lessons, I would always tack on 10 minutes to whatever they paid for because the first 10 minutes I'd be like, okay, how long have you played? What do you play? What stakes? Where do you live? What do you do for a living? I want to know like the whole, oh, how many hours a week are you studying? How many hours a week are you playing? Where are you playing? How do you feel it's going? Do you have a database? And now a lot of that I did with the questionnaire, but I had a plan set up for if you needed help with this, or this, I had a plan for that. I put a lot of work in ahead of time. If you're picking a coach, I would look at what they contribute to like training video sites and stuff like that. A lot of really good coaches will work with a training video site or they'll have their own thing going or they'll have stuff on YouTube. And if you if you watch those videos and you go, oh, this seems like somebody I could work with, then you can check out their reviews. Pocket Fives does have a section where people can review coaches. It's okay if they have like one or two bad reviews because that'll let you know they're letting through everything. But you can't if you're going to work with 100 students, there's just going to be one you don't gel with or doesn't feel like they got. A lot of
Right.
people look for a magic bullet and they're not going to get it, right? But if
Sure,
you
they
see,
just want the miracle cure, and you're saying, hey, you need to grind out your study sessions
yeah,
here.
exactly. People don't like hearing that a lot of the time. Well, I mean, I've had people like want to get off the call with me because I say like, I'm sorry, it's never going to happen if you're going to do it this way. Like, don't mortgage your house, keep your job, stuff like, you know, but, you know, don't slam heroin before breakfast, you know, basic stuff. But there's essentially like, you want to see that they have a really good track record, a lot of reviews. And you got to remember sometimes people will get refunded their money back if they promise not to leave a bad review. I've heard of a lot of coaches doing that stuff. If a coach is really testy on the time, that's a really bad sign for me. There's been a few times I've had to rush up lessons just because I have one right afterward, right? And I need to get out of there. But if it's 6 or 9 minutes of the person's time and you haven't, now you got to respect them too. Like if they give you 6 or 9 minutes or 15 minutes, sometimes happens with me, right? Of extra time, the next lesson, you know, don't expect that. They were probably finishing a thought or they had something they wanted to work on with you. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
if they were really testy, like if they were like, oh, time's up, let's go, you know, that I think really puts that to me shows inexperience because that's the fastest way to put a bad taste in someone's mouth. You know what I mean? They're paying you $100, $200 an hour. And remember, you don't have a degree from anywhere. This is all, you know, it's really much more about the satisfaction of the customer, right? And so you really need to be on point when it comes to that. So yeah, those are the things I would look at.
Nice, nice. Totally off topic. I have a guy in chat asking me how much to cut my beard, holding firm at $30,000.
How long have you had the beard?
Oh, we're going on about 2 years now.
2 years.
It's a
So
lot of work.
you had it before all the other douchebags had it.
Yeah, you know, I'm the
Yeah.
trendsetter. I'm not just
So
hopping on there.
did that piss you off when they would have their plaid shirts and they were eating their vegan tacos? They're talking about
Yeah,
what
you know, I'm not some punk that just a plaid shirt and a beard one day. You know.
Yeah, no, it looks pretty fully formed. It's a gorgeous
yeah.
beard. I'm gonna
Oh,
say
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, no, there's some people that can't pull off the beard, man. When I was commercial fishing, I grew a beard. Looked very bad. Did not. I was not getting into beard weekly, man. It looked pretty bad. But yeah, and it would change. Does yours grow weird colors ever?
I mean, sometimes I'll get a hair that's like dying and turns white or gray, but
Oh, that's it.
but
Yeah, I would get like red hairs out of nowhere, and I'm not red haired,
yeah,
right?
I have
Like
brown hair
nobody in
and
my
red
family
beard.
is. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I always found my beard grew weird, but yeah. Anyway, any off topic stuff, you guys can ask us whatever if we have time.
Yeah, I think we got one more question here, and then I think we'll call it a wrap.
All
From
right.
Mojo. Mojo
Let's do it,
wants to
Mojo.
know, Alex, how do you keep from becoming scared money when you are on a downswing and all your premium hands seem to get outdrawn?
You got to move down. A lot of people disagree with me on that. I think you got to move down. You got to grind out of it. You got to move down to the stakes. Remember what we were talking about. Like if you treat this as like entertainment through gambling, you should be playing an amount you can afford to lose. And if you lose the money, you'll be all right with it. But if you make the money, you'll feel great about it. So like when I was doing really bad at MTTs, like high stakes MTTs, I'd go back to sit and goes, right? When I was doing really bad, I was doing really bad at 400 NL. I didn't move down to 200 NL. I moved down to 100 NL, and everybody made fun of me because back then, you know, 2007, 2008, you know, everybody was pretending to be this baller who never really existed, who just had millions of dollars. You can't make a living at 100 NL. I made 5K that week. I didn't even look at my cashier. I just played 4 or 5 hours every day. And I just had fun the entire time. You know, I knew I had like $1,000 in my account. And at the time I could lose that and I'd be all right. You know, I had like 5,000 in my name, you know, so if I went from 5 to 4K, it wouldn't be pleasant, but it was going to be okay. And I just played and I never checked my cashier. And at the end, I checked the cashier and it was like $6,433 or something absurd. And I was like, what? At the end of the week? And that was just because I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. And I played really scared money. The first time I got into 100K makeup, I got into 100K makeup in 2008. By the way, back then, nobody was backed, supposedly, right? It was like, I would never get backing. That shows you're a loser. You're not a real poker player. I'm not making this up. That's what they used to say, right? And people would be like, what's your makeup total? I'm socially retarded, so I didn't understand this would be bad. But I was like, oh, 100K. And they were, you must be the worst player on earth. You're backed and you're in six figures to make it. I was like, dude, I was playing 10K. It's like, you know what I mean? And then eventually I started listening to everybody and I was like, oh my God, maybe I'm really bad at this. How am I ever going to pay this person back? And I was like, dude, just go in, have fun with it, see what happens. And I kept doing that. I kept having fun. I kept moving down. And then, I satellited into a Sunday Million, that final table day, la, la, la. Like it went well. But you got to, I think you got to move down. People always say, like, take a break. I think you can take too long of a break. But if you're going to take a break, like, really take a break, don't be like, I mean, like, playing PlayStation is great. I love my PlayStation. But, like, if I need to take a break, like, what I do is I go out to this cabin in the mountains right here, and I'll just hang out there for 2 days, and I'll read and chill and walk around in the nature and all that. And I try to really get away from the screens for a while. And when I come back, I'm really refreshed. And then if you move down in stakes, you don't have this, like, pressure to perform that you had before, so you're more likely to have fun with it from that point on.
Love it. Great answer. Well, Alex, hit me with all the plugs.
Yes, sir. Well,
before we go, shout out to Barry. Send my regards to Barry. I got to be the Barry for the day on Ask Alex.
Yeah, you did, and you had to put up with me rant. Hey, you almost got 22 words in. You almost beat Barry's record. Good for you, man. And real verbose behind that beard. But yeah, anyway, here's the plugs. I mean, essentially, if you guys want to get the free content, like I put out articles all the time. I put out free videos all the time, but they're all over the internet. If you want to get all of them just sent to you, to your email, sign up for that newsletter at pokerheadrush.com. Check out my battles online. Just put Assassinato versus, and you should see them. There's I'm not going to say I'm good at it, although a lot of people do seem to be entertained by them. I do seem to be able to write things that can make people laugh or horrify you. So yeah, check that out. And sign up for that newsletter. And yeah, if you're interested in Live Poker 101, write me at Alex at pokerheadrush.com. Check out America's Card Room's blog for my newest articles, and check out my podcast. Check out. Yeah, I just realized that. I was like, you idiot, you should get that faster. But yeah, oneouter.com is my free podcast. We do it every week. And that was what Chase was referencing as far as Barry. Barry's my wry Scottish co-host who likes to insult me as I get on my rants, but he's pretty amazing. Check out the One Outer podcast and pick up The Myth of Poker Talent. It is less money, literally, than a large pizza and a Coca-Cola at Papa John's. And this is much, much, much better for you than a Papa John's pizza most of the time. Anyway, you check it out. Get that book. It's a good. I put a year of my life into that book. Manuscripts on manuscripts on manuscripts, and so many cups of coffee spilled, just sitting in my couch, like editing and second versions, third versions. It's out. It's good. Check it out. Read it at Barnes and Noble. Take photos of every page. Yeah, just get it somehow. Actually, don't do that. My publisher will get mad at you. Don't be a jackass. It's $25. Anyhow, all right, we good?
All right, bro, we're good. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, Alex. It was fun.
Thank you, sir. This is a great time. Y'all have a good day.
All right, bro. Have a good Sunday.
All right, ciao.
Oh, that was fun. Shout out to all those questions that came in. Shout out for some chat. Mojo had a question there. That was a good one. Bad Man came in late. What's up, man? One of the OGs. Mega, you had some good questions in. Who else we got in? Oh, we got Jeff in here. Jeff came for the tail end. We had a couple of questions in on Twitter. That was pretty sweet. Akon, you had a question. Really appreciate all the questions. They're really good. So I'm going to set up my 4-minute delay, and I'll fire up a stream. We're going to play like $200 buy-ins, Sunday special PLO, Sunday special no limit. Be real special. So if you guys want to stick around, it's 4-minute delay. So that means we're going offline for 4 minutes while the delay kicks in. But if you guys want to stay around for the grind, that'd be cool. Came for Alex. I understand if you got to go. But we're going to do that. I'm going to ship it offline and set the delay and be back in 4 minutes.